go! Oh, beautiful. Boost! Ah! Parry this. Oh! Timestamps are available for your convenience. Let me not waste your time. I've been playing REDLINER since Wave 2 testing, and after spending countless hours learning movement tech, weapon matchups, and the game's core mechanics, I wanted to put together a guide to help both new and returning REDLINERs. A lot of players think that having cracked aim or moving at Mach 5 is all it takes to win, but really REDLINER is really about balancing 3 fundamentals, those being movement, swordplay, and gunplay. We'll cover essential movement tech, instability management, fundamentals of sword combat, and finish with every weapon's pros, cons, and unique mechanics. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so this guide's going to be starting off assuming that you've never seen any REDLINER gameplay and you have no experience with V-hopping or anything as so what. So, first things we're going to introduce are V-hopping, sliding, and strafing. So V-hopping is whenever you have momentum in one direction and you hold space. And then strafing is when you hold A or D and turn your camera at a 45-degree angle to gain momentum. So, if you V-hop, hold a direction, get the momentum in the direction and then hold space. And then strafing is when you have said momentum, and then now you're turning your camera at a 45-degree angle, and as you see in the bottom, you'll begin picking up speed. Now, you can also start off with higher speed than just 40 by initiating a slide, which can be done in any direction, diagonal as well, backwards. And then as soon as you gain that momentum, you're going to stand up and then begin strafing. And now, you'll be a lot faster, right? Now if you turn too fast, I want to turn back into that doorway, you'll kill your momentum. So you want to make sure you don't turn too fast and you don't turn too little to the point where you don't gain any momentum. So if I slide again and I turn barely like this, I'm barely going to gain momentum. And I'm moving nowhere basically as well, so there's that as well. And now that we've covered strafing and V-hopping, now we have initial movement out of the way, we're going to talk about redirecting that momentum. So the most commonly used tech to do that is called BDG, backdash grapple, or also called slingshot. So as the name implies, you can also get momentum by standing still, and say you haven't got any momentum, you're standing still, you just did a slam or something else. We'll get into that later. You're going to want to do a backdash by either holding backwards and dashing, or looking backwards, and then immediately going back to where you want to go. You're going to grapple as soon as you do that set action. So backdash, just doing a backdash instead of turning your cameras, I find more simple. I'm going to backdash, grapple, and I'm going to instantly gain momentum, and I can begin strafing, and then building a momentum from there. Now, doing a slingshot or BDG does have one side effect where after you gain that initial momentum, you will see it diminish over time. So say I backdash, I'm at 110, and I want to backdash again, I'll be around like 130, right? But you'll see it diminish down, back down to 120 after a little bit, which you can regain after you airfill a little bit. But we can talk about later more ways to compensate for that loss. But one of the things you can do after doing a slingshot or a BDG to regain it is wall running to retain that gain momentum. So if I'm along a wall here, I want a slingshot. Okay, slingshot, wall run. You'll see I retained to 120 instead of dropping down to 110. So if I were to do it by itself without any wall run, you'll see me go down to 100 and then back up to 110. So tapping a wall run after slingshotting can help you with that. Now moving on to the next section, we're gonna use a different map. The FFA map is a bit easier to practice this because it is much more open. And now this is the best beginner tech that most people use this to get momentum. It is better than the BG and slingshot in where it gives you more momentum and you don't have a diminishing speed return, but in turn it is usually less convenient to execute, right? Because it requires you to be in the air and not on the ground. So there's a tech called slamming where if you slam, you'll give your opponent 60% instability, but if you hit nothing, you'll gain instability instead. If they parry it, you'll get the 60% instability. Now, we usually use this one on a person, because that's what that's what the mechanic is for, to slam someone to give them instability. So, what comes in if the person that you're fighting is really good and realizes that you're spamming slam all the time during the fight? Now, whether you want to use this as a feint or movement, it's up to you, but how this is done is whenever you are ready for a slam, your grapple in the middle will vibrate yellow in the middle, indicating that you can use a slam. Once you initiate a slam, you're going to slam and perfectly time your crouch key right before you touch the ground in order to convert that momentum into a forward momentum over where your camera is looking. Now keep in mind, this isn't the direction you fly in isn't dependent on where you initiate the slam, but where your camera is as soon as you slide. So if I want to slide forward, I'm going to keep looking forward. Now if I want to do it the other way, I can slide and turn my camera around very quickly. This is done easier at higher heights, so I can be up here, and now I'm going to have more time. Oh, I messed up the timing. But now I'm going to have more time to turn my camera around, and I'll still gain that momentum from it. Now this can be done as a fake out if the person knows that you spam them a lot, so you can aim towards them and then just do a safe slam instead, and they'll end up parrying, and then they'll gain instability because of that. And then if they're at max instability, they can't parry, leaving you wide open for a shot with their gun. And now similarly to the previous tech, these following techs are used to redirect your momentum and maintain it. So unlike sage slamming where you gain momentum off it, these techs are also time sensitive and where you need to perfectly time an input in order to execute them. But these help retain your momentum instead of gain it. So say I have 130 now, or 120, and I want to, instead of turn around or using a slingshot to redirect my momentum, I can use a sliding redirect. So how this works is I'm going to slide and tap the backwards input key. You can hold if you want to, but there's a caveat to doing that. And it's going to redirect my momentum 180 from where I'm looking. So if I hold S and tap, I'm going to redirect momentum just like that. Then you'll see, if I said earlier, if I hold S instead before touching the ground, what it's going to do is that I'm going to lose momentum depending on how early I hold S. So getting the 180 turn isn't hard, but retaining your momentum is the reason why you want to perfectly time your slide so that you don't lose too much momentum. As I'll demonstrate again, I have 120, and if I hold S, you see me lose momentum before I initiate the slide. I'll go from 122 to 117 as you saw there. Now there's also wall run tech. Wall run redirecting works on the same principle where you hold the opposite direction of where you're going, and then you disengage the wall run after you've changed it. So if I want to wall run on this, forward, backwards, I'm going to hold backwards and then let go space. Now vice versa, if I want to do it backwards, say I'm using this one, now I hold backwards, I hold forwards. Oh, did it too late. Backwards, and then forwards, and that's going to push me back forward. Now these techs are useful for dodging bullets. So say you have someone locked on with a monarch, if they're tracking you, they're going to flick backwards to try and track you going the opposite direction. I mean, aside from retaining momentum, using it to view people is very good because it's a lot sharper than having to turn your camera slowly while strafing to maintain your momentum. Because keep in mind, as previously said, if you do a sharp turn, you're just going to kill your momentum and end up going nowhere. And now you're very easy to snipe. So that's the application for this. Now finally in this section, we have external sources that you can gain momentum from. As you may have noticed around the map, there are zip lines, bounce pads, and if you've ever gone out of bounds in free-for-all, or during ones or twos you've been outside the zone, you'll get a guy tracking onto you. His name is the Headhunter, and he has a monarch which will kill you by the 4th shot. You can parry all 3 of his shots, but on the 4th one, it is unparryable, and you are dead basically, so you can only use it so much. But his shot, when you parry, just like the recoil, just like the monarch, the recoil will give you an amount of momentum that you can use. So if you're ever in FFA and you're chasing someone, you landed a crazy 6 shot, you're out of bounds, you can use the momentum from the Headhunter to give you a boost to get back into the fight, and vice versa. Now there's also certain guns that give you recoil that you can use to gain momentum. Siege is probably the best example of that, and the Phoenix has the highest one, but I'll explain that later in the gun section. The Monarch also has an example of this, where it will kick back, and in order to receive the momentum from these type of guns and these horses, you have to be crouching. If you do it while standing, you'll see that you will receive knockback, kickback, but you won't retain the momentum because you were standing and there's friction. Now, if I'm standing still and crouching and I fire, you'll see that I gained the momentum from it, but I'm losing it because I'm sliding and I will slowly lose that momentum. Now if I do it while moving and I hold slide, you'll see that I am now at 128 and I have momentum I can use to turn. As you can see in the previous text that I've been doing, while I've been getting momentum from these kickbacks or recoils, I've been turning my camera perfectly 180 from where I've received the recoil, so that way I can use the momentum I've got and convert it into momentum that I can use, right? Now, if I were to use the recoil from the gun, right, and then try and strafe at a different angle, or not going into a wall at least, I'll do it this way. Now it's directly behind me, but if I turn this way, instead of turning full 180, what it's going to do is make it so I lose that momentum. It's basically the same thing as cutting it off as doing a sharp turn with the momentum, because the momentum I'm receiving is already this way, not 90 degrees from me. So if I try and start strafing 90 degrees from it, it's just going to kill the momentum. And one thing I almost forgot to mention are there are more external sources that you can get momentum from in FFA or certain ones maps like Arc, but there's ziplines and jump pads. When going down and going up these, you'll gain more or less than you would the other way, because, you know, going up is going to be harder than going down a hill, right? But you can use these ziplines to quickly give you momentum without performing any special sort of tech. And then, if you want to redirect yourself when hopping off these ziplines, what you can do is turn the camera and then hold space. You'll lose a bit of momentum, but you'll still gain a lot more than if you were to do a slingshot while standing still. And same thing goes for if you were to go all the way to the end. Go all the way to the end, don't hit space, just hold slide. Easily you'll retain the full 138 momentum that you get while going down the zipline. And then there's those jump pads too. They're scattered around the map. You got one up here. You can use these. You can sage slam into it, and you get a super boost. You get a higher vertical boost than you would normally walking into it. So moving from movement to swordplay, reason the aforementioned was brought up first is because your movement is directly correlated with how well you can execute your swordplay. A person with better movement is going to be able to be more impressive with the swordplay, because faster movement means their clashing will be better and you'll destabilize if you straight up try and clash with them too much at a time. Vice versa if you're the one with better movement. But first we're going to go into the basic controls, and something that we did not mention in the movement section, which is pretty important for one of the mechanics of swordplay. So if you look in the bottom left, under your augment where your grappling counts are, right, you can see the circle building up the cooldown. Under that are 3 bars. Those are your stamina bars. You'll regain it faster depending on what you're doing. So if you're sliding, you'll regain it about medium, and then if you're standing, or yeah, standing straight up, you're touching the ground. You're touching the ground but not sliding, you'll gain stamina back the fastest. If you're in the air, you'll gain it the slowest. But the slowest is still adequate enough where it's not like, oh, I'm so dead the next time I touch the ground. It's still good, but it's just a slower rate. Now, for the basic mechanics, there's M1s and sweeps for swordplay, right? These are basic range, they do 20 each, and it takes 8 of these to kill a player, because 20 times 8 is 160, assuming you're only hitting them with sword. And then there's wide sweeping, which is holding crouch, and then whenever your sword glows white like this, which is hard to see on certain skins like glass. I had to switch to this skin because it was literally impossible to see in glass. But whenever you crouch and you hear that arming noise, it means that your white slash is ready. This will do the same damage as a normal slash, but it will have wider M1 range. And what this is used for is for kiting. Now I'll explain trading and clashing briefly. But trading is when, say, the other person has high instability, and they don't want to clash with you, because if they clash again, they'll destabilize, and then they're more exposed, right? What they'll try and do is offset their M1 with you so that they get hit, but then they hit you with their M1 afterwards, because they didn't swing at the same time, which doesn't trigger a clash. Now, if you don't want to do that, and you're not using a normal M1 against their M1, right? You're not within the same M1 range, what you can do instead is fly by them at a distance, and then sweep them at a range, so that way they can't trade you. Because if they try and M1 you first before you swing at them, if you're this far away, the normal M1 is going to hit you. But because you're using a white slash, you'll be able to hit them. So it's about roughly 2 times the range of normal M1. But if you get the spacing down enough, it'll be very useful. Because usually when people are moving at high speeds, they'll just want to try and run it and slash you like that. But with a wide slash, you can opt to play it more around them, like that, so that way you don't clash them. A wide slash can still clash with a normal slash, but this is more for the offset, or trading thing that I was talking about. Clashing, we'll get into that just after. But just keep in mind that landing M1s and clashing are what will build up your heat, which is how you'll get your ammo for each gun, which depends on which gun you're using, but that's for the gunplay section. Alright, moving on to instability. This is going to be the main resource that you'll be playing around with, or trying to gauge your other opponent's resource mainly, when you're running ones or you're an FFA, if you want to like pick out somebody. Instability, as previously mentioned, can be gained from varying sources. One of them, and the earlier section, that being a slam. If you hit no one, will give you 20% instability, but go to standstill for me. If you do land your slam on someone, then instead they'll get 60% instability, and you'll gain nothing. And then vice versa for if you get parried, go ahead and parry my slam. Boom, I'll get 60% instead. Now, there's also parrying bullets. Parrying bullets and having your instability fill up to max will never destabilize you, with only a few exceptions. But say we're parrying a castigate, go ahead and shoot me. When my instability is max, shoot me again. Both times it did not destabilize me, so you can parry as much as you want, and it won't put your parry on a cooldown either, as long as you're parrying something and it's a successful parry. Parrying also negates the instability you get from a redliner swing, an M1 or a white slash. Go ahead and parry me when swing when I parry. As you can see, I don't gain any instability, and instead he's only getting instability instead because of that. And then also, what happens when your instability is maxed and you end up becoming destabilized is your cooldowns of your augment and your dashes will get reset to 0. And if you're in the air, it puts your air dashes on indefinite cooldown until you touch the ground. So go ahead and destabilize me, slam me. You can see I'm trying to dash, but only once I hit the ground am I able to start dashing again. So go ahead and destabilize me again one more time. In the air I'm spamming C, I won't be able to dash. However, I will be able to use grapples. So typically what you want to do after being destabilized in air is just doing a sage slam. But yeah, that's one of the many ways you can get out of being destabilized. There are a few exceptions to parrying. Go to switch to Phoenix, but in the meantime, I'm going to show what the Headhunter does to you on his 4th shot. For the first 3 shots of his, you can parry it normally and they won't kill you, as long as you're parrying them. 3rd shot. 4th shot's gonna come much faster, and you're not gonna be able to parry it. It's also a very small margin to parry. Before, in testing, you were able to parry it, but as you can see, that angle you'd have to parry at was very, very tight. Another thing that bypasses parrying is the Phoenix weapon. Go ahead and shoot me on a direct body shot. Parrying a direct body shot will completely ignore whatever level instability you're at and destabilize you. Same thing goes with the normal AoE projectile. If your instability is high enough, if you parry it, shoot me on the foot, you will also be destabilized if your instability is high enough when being caught in a Phoenix AoE. But aside from that, instability is something you'd want to manage while you're clashing with someone, which will be explained in the next section. Before we can mention clashing, one thing that should be remembered is that instability does go down passively over time, but not at a favorable rate considering how fast redliner combat can typically be. Typically you lose very minimal before you enter another situation where you have an exchange of instability. So now that we're moving on to clashing, clashing is whenever you swing an M1 or white slash with another person and you clash with them at the same time. In FFA, this can happen instantaneously with multiple people, which is why you'll get instantly destabilized sometimes if you swing while standing still and 3 people swing on you while they're moving like 100 units per second. But typically, there's training dummies here at the training ground. I'll reset this one so it's a little easier for you guys to see. But the training dummies right out here from where you spawn on the training area are very nice to help test your movement capabilities in the previous section, right? Sage sliding and being able to slingshot into someone. But typically, these are used to test how well you can clash with someone. So if you, as I showed you earlier, if you swing at somebody while standing still, you'll gain more instability than them. And though you both gain instability, you'll gain more, which will net, if this does happen over time, you will end up destabilized. Now, dashing, if someone's very slow or standing still, is a good way to quickly gain 100 units per second, but if you do nothing afterwards, you'll always lose the momentum right afterwards. But if someone's standing still, you can just dash like this on this dummy for the sake of practicing destabilization, and you'll destabilize someone, right? Destabilizing someone will also give you a bullet whenever you get it, so if I disable it, destabilize him again, dash a few more times, you see I get a bullet instantly, regardless of the gun I'm using. Now, with these faster guys, it really depends on how good your movement is, right? If your speed is significantly higher than theirs when you clash with them, they will destabilize a lot quicker, which is why I mentioned earlier in the first part of the section that movement is directly correlated with your swordplay, because the slower you are, you're not going to be able to clash with someone, as it won't be favorable for you, and that's when pairing becomes more important. As I said, you can also clash with a wide clash while moving, so keep that in mind. That is an option for you. Stabilize, just like that. Alright, now moving on to pairing. This is going to be your main defensive option in this game, aside from clashing or just staying away from somebody with your movement. If you have no kills and haven't gone parry fatigue yet, it'll take you 4 parries before you become too unstable and you'll get parry fatigue. Now, if you have parry fatigue, if you've gone at all during your run before the last time you've died, every parry from now on, you'll get a debuff that makes it so you'll gain more instability on a failed parry, which means it'll take 3 parries now to take you to parry fatigue. And this also happens if you get a 2 kill streak. So 1 kill streak doesn't seem to do much, alright? You'll still gain about 25%, but if you hit 2 kill streak, then from what I've noticed, and this isn't mentioned on the doc either, that's be attached in this video description, but now you'll gain as much instability or a little less, but as much as if you were to hit parry fatigue, and now you just gain more. It seems win streak seems to correlate with parry gain if you haven't gone parry fatigue yet at all. Alright, and now that we've covered parrying, let's talk about the momentum you can get from varying sources, and we're mainly going to be covering guns. So, similarly to how in an earlier section I demonstrated getting parried or parrying a slam knocks you up vertically on whoever is the receiving end parrying the slam, the Phoenix has a similar attribute to this, but one thing that all of these following sources for parrying are going to share is that they will influence your momentum, either positively or negatively depending on which direction your momentum is taking you. So if you're going towards the gunshot, the knockback is going to counteract your momentum, negatively affecting it. And then vice versa if you are already going in the direction it's going to knock you back, or if you are sideways from it. So first off, we're going to be using a castigate. We'll see that this has the least influence on your momentum, as getting hit by while sliding gives you about 50, depending if you're already moving or not. Standing still just gives you 50. You get hit in the air, it's a little less than 50. And then same thing, you'll see that when I'm going towards it, you'll see that my momentum gets cut while I'm going towards it. If I'm going sideways, it helps moves it. It influences it a little bit, similar to how you were to slingshot sideways. Now, moving on to the Phoenix, as I said, this is very similar to parrying a slam. It always knocks you up when you parry it, and then eating a shot direct on will normally destabilize you. But no matter if you're moving fast or not, parrying it will kill your momentum, and you will get knocked up. Alright, and then I'm moving on to the next gun. You have Siege. This gun shoots twice, and each shot influences your momentum by quite a bit. Standing still, you'll see that it brings you to 100 just by the first shot. And then going into it completely kills your momentum most of the time, even if you're moving super fast. As you'll see, I'll get some momentum here. And as you can see, it stops me dead in my tracks. So, Siege is pretty strong with that. You gotta respect it. And yeah, best idea when dealing with Siege, as we'll cover later in the gunplay section, is to just stay out of its range, so you aren't influenced by it. And then finally, the Monarch. This gun, recoil movement influences about the same way as getting shot by the Headhunter. As standing still will barely affect you just as much as any other one, but while sliding and standing still, you'll see that it knocks you back for 116, or closer around there. And the same thing, it'll also kill your momentum if you're going towards it. A little hard to do with how long it takes to start up. Yep, as you can see, I'm going 90 towards it, and it knocked me backwards at 100. So, yeah, even with this pretty weak slingshot there. Yeah. Point is, the Monarch, don't get hit by it. It's hard to hit for a reason. It will kill your momentum. before we get into Castigate, there's one global mechanic that all guns share I want to get out of the way. You can perfectly tap your crouch key as the gun is about to release its bullet. What it will do is prevent you from losing momentum from the gun's recoil. So as you can see, I'm at 114 right now, but if I time my crouch key, I go from 115 only down to 114 and lose a much more minimal amount of momentum than if I were not to do the tech. As you can see, I'll do it again from 104 and I lose all my momentum from the gun's recoil. Keep that in mind, this tech can be shared across all guns. Now moving on to the gun itself, Castigate is a gun that has 100 heat per bullet, meaning it takes 3 1s by itself to get a bullet. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, and that'll give you a bullet. This gun is a one-hand scan lock-on, meaning that the moment you have the reticle appear when you aim at someone, as long as you keep it within your cursor within the circle, it can wallbang and will hit them no matter what. A cool thing you can do with this gun, because it is one-handed, is that it lets you grapple while you're pulling out the gun, which the other guns don't allow you to because it is not one-handed. What you can do is slam someone, knock them up, grapple while aiming your Castigate, and it is a good mix-up option instead of slashing them instead. And you can do a lot of cool things with a one-hand thing with this gun. The knockback from the recoil is very minimal compared to other guns, as it only gives you 50 and a little bit as well if you're in the air when you take the recoil, but it is enough to get you enough to slingshot. But this goes also for just sliding and doing a BDG as well. Moving on to the infamous Phoenix, is a rocket launcher and shoots an explosive projectile. As of making this video, it only has now 1 bullet and it costs 180 heat to get 1 bullet. It is not one-shot on body anymore, but will still destabilize you and do 140. Direct one-shot is indicated by a Phoenix mark right here, and AoE shots will knock the person up, setting them up for an easy air grapple, and is one of the main appeals of Phoenix, as it consistently knocks them up, setting them up for easy damage. The sphere hitbox can go through walls, as long as they're within the sphere range of the explosion. As you can see, he gets hit there, and it also works around corners like this guy over here. You can see he got hit right there as well. The recoil trick of tapping the crouch key to retain momentum also works with this. As you can see, I retain momentum here, and the knockback from this gun is adequate, 100. If you get hit by your own explosion while in the air, you get the most momentum out of all 4 guns, reaching up to 200 units per second. Alright, moving on to Siege. This gun has 140 heat required to shoot for each bullet, and each bullet allows you to shoot twice in succession for at the cost of 1 bullet in this game. With this gun. And this gun has a noticeable amount of recoil per shot. As you can see, crouching, standing still, I can go straight to 150 per shot, and is amazing for movement. This counts. Both shots give you the same amount of momentum. And because the bullets shoot in a cone shot, if you angle your shots right, or if people are cluttered enough and FFA, you can kill multiple people with just 1 round of bullets or 2 shots. At a certain range, this gun won't hit anyone at all, so being close is very important. As you can see, the second shot was not within range. I was just on the edge right here to hit them, which is pretty far in retrospect, but considering how fast people can move in this game, you have to be very aware of your surroundings to use this gun. And as previously mentioned, recoil control on this gun by tapping shift to negate the recoil is also very much usable on this gun, and very important if you want to be able to unload 2 shots in front of someone. And as you can see, you can use the second shot to redirect yourself back onto the map, depending on the map you're fighting on, or if you're trying to shoot someone, say someone's up here, or you know someone's trying to go up here to avoid you while you destabilize them, you can use your shot to position yourself and a second shot to hit them. It takes a little bit of position awareness to use, but that's the gist of this gun. Now moving on to the wonderful Monarch. This is the same gun that murders you if you don't parry the headhunter when you walk out of bounds. I'll bet he definitely uses a different one because his 4th shot is unparryable. This gun gives you a strong amount of recoil per shot. As you see, I demonstrated this earlier in the earlier sections, but it gives you 120 on shot, and then you can control that and then choose what to do with that momentum if you want to strafe with it or just redirect yourself. Turn around and you can strafe with it. This gun has wallbanging potential, as no matter what the state is, you can wallbang someone only through a certain amount of materials, but the damage scales off the distance that you're shooting them from during the wallbang. You can see there's a person right behind here, and I can shoot them just like that. You can also shoot through vertical surfaces like this, and you know it's a wallbang if you don't have the highlight of the character you're shooting, because normally if you have line of sight, you will get a box that indicates where you can shoot them. The hitbox for the bullet is a little bigger than it shows, so you keep it in mind. This helps a little bit. And as the same trick we showed earlier, you can tap shift to negate momentum loss. As you can see, it's a little harder to hear the sound because of the loud sound effect of firing the rifle, but as you can see, it did not kick me back there. If you want to use it to redirect while you're jousting someone, that also works, as it will give you 120 entirely back against from where you were trying to go. So, Monarch's a wonderful weapon. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Did you learn something new? Hopefully you did. Sorry I didn't go further into in-depth or more niche or time-sensitive tech like super slingshotting or such, but realistically, with the stuff mentioned earlier, you'll be able to achieve speeds similar to super slingshotting. And knowing mechanics is one thing, but REDLINER isn't a linear game. You're gonna have to read and adapt to your opponents in real time to win those especially hard fights. If you enjoyed the content, leave a like or sub, and maybe check out my other videos.